The second party system had worked to smooth over the regional differences between the North and the South. This is the Whigs and the Democrats. Because there were both free soil Whigs and Democrats and pro-slave Whigs and Democrats, the two parties kind of agreed not to fight over this issue. But when the Whig Party collapsed under the weight of the Kansas-Nebraska Act, their refusal to take a real position on it, they were replaced by the Republican Party. And the Republican Party was different because it was built on the idea of specifically opposing the spread of slavery. And so this new system, the third party system, Republicans and Democrats, did not work to keep the Union together. In fact, it worked to tear the Union apart. When Lincoln is elected, this leads Southern leaders to demand an end to the Union. They see Lincoln as hell-bent on ending slavery altogether. That's not true. Lincoln actually just didn't want to end the spread of slavery, but they understood that if the new territory did not have slaves in it, that the senators and representatives who came from those territories would be willing somewhere down the line to end slavery. So while Lincoln wasn't an abolitionist himself, his election certainly meant that the abolitionist side was going to win in the long run. South Carolina seceded from the Union on December 20th of 1860. And before Lincoln is inaugurated, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas have left. You see all the kind of peach-colored states there. In February of 1861, these states meet at Montgomery, Alabama, and form the Confederate States of America. Buchanan, who is still president, Lincoln hasn't been sworn in yet, claimed that the states did not have the right to leave, but he also felt that the federal government didn't have the right to stop them. And I have to ask, why didn't the states have the right to leave? Nowhere in the Constitution does it say this. In fact, when Texas had agreed to become part of the United States in 1845, just 15 or 16 years earlier, in the treaty it said that Texas could leave whenever it wanted to. So for me personally, and for many historians, it's not clear at all that the South did not have the right to secession. Certainly Texas did by treaty. But of course, that wasn't what was in the interest of the United States. And so Buchanan and then, of course, Lincoln are going to claim that there's no right. The Confederate States seizes federal property, things like military bases and post offices and stuff like this. But they don't yet have the strength to take two forts. One is Fort Pickens in Florida, and the other is Fort Sumter in South Carolina. Buchanan refuses to abandon these forts, and in fact in January of 1861 he attempts to resupply them. But the Confederates are able to turn the resupply efforts back. And so the soldiers, the U.S. soldiers, the Union soldiers in these forts are stranded. Buchanan insists this is not war. A representative named Crittenden of Kentucky will propose a Crittenden Compromise. And he will say that we should reinstate the Missouri Compromise line. Remember, Dred Scott had removed it. And extend it all the way to the coast, and that's that map you see there. And say that slavery can exist below that line. Republicans, who of course were founded on the idea that slavery should not be allowed to spread, rejected this compromise. The South was actually willing to accept it. This could have saved the Union. Lincoln will, as I mentioned in the last chapter, give 14 speeches between the day he's elected and the day he's sworn in. And in not one speech he will not utter one word to try to encourage the South to stay. He has to sneak in disguise into Washington, D.C. to be inaugurated because he fears he'll be assassinated by angry Southerners. In his inaugural address, he says federal troops will hold, occupy, and possess all federal property, meaning that they will not abandon Sumter and Pickens. So Lincoln has accepted war. He is, at this point, essentially pushing for this Civil War. Lincoln will send an armed resupply effort to Sumter. The one Buchanan sent did not have, it wasn't armed. And he says if they are fired on, then that means the war has begun. General Pierre Gustave Truffaut Beauregard, who's, as you can tell, French, or at least of French ancestry, will be ordered to take Fort Sumter. After a 2-day bombardment, on April 14th of 1861, the fort falls without losing a man. No one is killed in the actual attack on the fort itself. Lincoln then orders troops into Virginia, who has not seceded yet. Lincoln effectively invades part of the United States that is not in rebellion. Virginia responds by seceding, followed by Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina. Maryland, Delaware, Kentucky, and Missouri are also slave states, but Lincoln will occupy them with troops and successfully prevent them from seceding. This is not a fair fight. The North has virtually all the industry, the money, and the transportation. The South had effectively a colonial economy. Remember, they have virtually no production, no manufacturing at all. They can't make weapons. They can't effectively make warships, for example. But the South does have some advantages. They are on defense. And it is easier, particularly at this time in war, to defend than to attack. The North had supply and communication issues. Remember, the rail system, as well as the telegraph system, because remember, they're kind of the same thing, don't really extend across the Mason-Dixon line. They don't really run from north to south. So while it's very easy to go from, say, Ohio to New York, it's very difficult to go from, say, Pennsylvania or Philadelphia to Richmond, Virginia. So that's going to be an issue for the North. The South was united behind the war, while the North was pretty divided. We're going to see that the war was actually fairly unpopular in the North. The South also believed that Europe would help them. Europe had been very friendly to Texas, for example, believing Texas could serve as a counterweight to the power of the United States. And of course, Europe was very, very hungry for southern cotton. And so they believed that the European forces would be quick to come over and help the South in their war effort. Now, that's going to turn out to not be true for reasons we'll discuss as we go along here.